I'm gonna take this, I'm not gonna thank you, and I'm gonna go listen to it. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of an album whose name I'm hoping I'm pronouncing correctly, Squarepusher Ufabulum. Squarepusher is electronic music producer and multi-instrumentalist Tom Jenkinson. This is definitely not the first time I am reviewing work from him. Over the course of his pretty lengthy career, he has created some of the most notable albums in not only drum and bass, but IDM. And the guy prides himself on being an experimentalist, fusing these electronic sounds with the musical modes of jazz fusion, and sometimes in a really mind-bending way, especially on the album Music is One Rotted Note. And I feel like Tom's career as of late has been loaded with more personal adventures and self-indulgent projects than ever. Whether it's an LP of solo bass works, or an album influenced by a daydream by this futurist electronic rock band, or actually trying to make that rock band happen by leading a full band with a different project, Showbleader 1. All of this experimentation, just a little bit, has drifted Tom away from the electronic roots that his career grew from. And while his ventures outside of that box have always been pretty interesting, rarely has it been exciting, at least for me. But I'm happy to say that this new LP goes back to the more electronic side of Squarepusher in a big way. And Tom is definitely not sitting back in comfortable territory. Instead, he is sort of molding his usual sound, his usual style to the modern electronic music landscape. Tom actually tries to incorporate some elements from the world of dubstep into his music on this LP. The tracks Dark Steering and DRAX 2, the two lead tracks on this LP, both feature some pretty heavy, distorted, and to my ears, wobbling synth bass. And so does the track Unreal Square, but that song resembles dubstep even more to me simply because it has this heavy and large drop. So Squarepusher basically kind of grabs this dubstep bass and combines it with his trademark intense and intricate drum sequencing. Very glitchy, very detailed. And I like what Tom is doing with this combination of sounds on the tracks where this combination of sounds appear. I think these deeper bass tones are kind of giving Tom a darker edge on some moments with this LP. Dark Steering is a monster on this LP, so overwhelming with how many sounds, how many rich sounds are flowing throughout that track. Just such heavy bass and heavy electronics, and meanwhile there are some very strange metallic tones hanging in the background in the atmosphere. They're wailing, but very softly, and it's kind of a very dark omen. The song DRAX 2 is dark as well, but it has a lot more space. It is. But some songs on here are pretty cacophonous, are very noisy. I would say even uniquely noisy and especially noisy for Squarepusher. The track 303 SCOPEM Hard has these metallic tones on it that sound like a train kind of rushing to a stop, screeching to a halt, but it's repeating everywhere, just flying in every direction. I think it comes from a cymbal though. It is such a great and just exciting track for me. Sounds are just everywhere, but the song still manages to put forth a really great groove. Everything comes together and works in tandem. And that's what I feel like Tom Jenkinson's power as a producer can be sometimes. He can really create a mess, just a flurry of different sounds, but a groove, a direction will still read through just all of this density. Every track on this LP that I love, though, actually comes in the second half of this album. The first half of this LP is a slightly rough ride for me. I thought the production on the first half of this LP, like, usual Squarepusher fashion, very fast, very nimble, very detailed tracks. But I thought the chords and the melodies were a bit too much alike the very pleasant and agreeable tracks from Just a Souvenir and Chevalier 1, especially with the track Stadium Ice. Although I will say it does sound, to me, more palatable on this album than it did with those other releases. I felt like the track Red in Blue was a bit underwhelming, this very icy and minimal synth odyssey, which I just don't find its place in this album to be all that fantastic, I guess. And Unreal Square has this synth solo at the 3-minute mark, just about there, that is so out of place it's just impossible to ignore. Unfortunately for me, this album feels like a mixed bag of songs of various styles and qualities. The combination of IDM and dubstep is the most notable and consistent thing that this album has going, and while I do think it's interesting and I do think it's really good, I have to admit that passion, that interest in me stems from being a fan. I do have to say that I don't feel like what Tom has done here necessarily adds to the world of IDM or adds to the world of dubstep, more just adds to his discography. But still, I say this in every Squarepusher review, if you have not tried this guy's music out, especially his early releases, do so, please. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this album. I thought it was likable, falls short of being fantastic to me. Still, there are a handful of tracks on this thing that I did absolutely love, especially on that second half. Like I said, second half, killer. All right. What did you guys think of this thing? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Anthony Fantano, Squarepusher, forever.